Hello, everybody. On this edition of BOS Code Review, we actually have some exciting things. So as you guys know, near social, it has its own VM, and it's sort of like a limitation of React and JSX. And recently, Evgeny Yermak has added new hooks like use state, use effect, use memo, etc. And it looks way more like React. So in this episode, Ebube from Minority Programmers and GenaDrop is going to be kind of showing you the changes that are reflected in code, and also showing you how to develop locally with a peek of BOS Workspace, which is a new kind of development environment for developing code locally, hot loading in a gateway, and yeah. Without further ado, if you want to take it away.
Okay, yeah, cool. Thank you. Okay, so just as you mentioned, we'll be starting with the setting up your space, the BOS workspace locally. So ideally, there are some packages that are needed to be installed. So I'll just be showing that. So in your terminal, so this is my terminal here. So can go ahead and here's a package, the BOS workspace. Actually, there were actually a lot, but they have compiled it to just one npm package. So you can use either npm, pnpm, yarn, whichever package manager you prefer. Just go ahead and paste this, and don't forget the global flag because you need to install this globally. And once that is done, because I have actually installed this, then you need to go to the project or the folder that you want to like set up your workspace and actually set it up. So I'll be setting it up here in test. Then I can just go ahead and open terminal here. Then I can see the command to type is this. And you just tap enter. Then you can just give it a name. So I'm going to be calling it hooks demo. Yeah, I'm going to be calling it hooks demo. So with that, you're good to go. And I can CD into this now. I can CD into hooks demo. And yeah, right and start our server. Okay. Yep. Cool. So now with this now, we can be able to start our server. And just like introduction to what's going on here. So if you look at package.json, make sure that you have this script, which is dev and which is build, and also this dependency as well, because you need this BOS workspace dependency. So if you are using older version, you won't be able to see this here. So you need to like update your version and make sure that you have this dependency. Cool. Then if you open the apps, you can see the name of my project, which is the hooks demo. And these are my widgets. So all my widgets is going to live here. So if I have home.index is going to live here. So I just need to create a folder here called home, called index. As you can see at the moment, we have just this in our as a widget, which is this app.jsx. Make sure you name your files with JSX and not something else. Yeah. Then yeah, so as you can see now, the account that we are being using, that we're using now is called hooksdemo.near. So it's actually been configured here. You can change it to whichever one you want, but testing things locally, you can just use this account. But when you want to deploy, you need a live account. Yeah, you need a live account. This account is actually live, and I also have some gas fees in it so that I can actually deploy this when it's time for deployment. So just make sure that you have that the near accounts.
Just clarifying on that. So this right here, it basically lets when you run it locally know which kind of widget this is mapping to, and it's good practice to make it the account you're deploying from, because inside the other widgets, you'll be basically referencing under that same path. Some people like to actually replace the account ID, but and develop that way. But
yeah, it's good. You can actually do that, but ideally, when you're working in teams, so it's good to just like maintain it, because yeah, you might push and someone is push another one. But if you want to, you can change this locally and it still work fine. Yeah, it still work fine and perfect. Yeah. So because that's one of the advantages that this BOS workspace actually gives us, because now you can actually work in teams and deploy to the same account. So you're not having mixed couple of accounts for a single application that is being built on BOS. Yeah, that's one of the advantages.
Yeah, but
So now,
general code practice, you also might have like a staging component too. So you'll see a lot, even like in the near horizon application, them kind of separate the actual account name from the widget path. That way they can kind of dynamically render it and replace it. But yeah,
yeah, that's true. Okay, so now if we go ahead and start our server with BW so this is going to create this build. As you can see, it's actually having a package or JSON. So it's going to actually build this. So now if this is built, then we can go ahead and our server is live now here, but we need to go to everything.dev. Everything.dev/flags and add that flag to our um to our browser. So one thing to note is that, okay, so this is it, so we can add it now. So another thing to know, you need to be able to disable any shield or any ad blocker or anything like that, because once you enable it, the BOS workspace won't be able to load. Yeah. So now we can head over to everything dev. So now I think we are working with hooks demo, the name of the account, just like you do it on near socials, but now it's everything dev /widgets. I think the near /widgets, then slash, I think it's app. Yeah, so you see now it's actually giving us exactly what, so we can actually change this. Yeah, so we can change this, update this as well. I can call this hello world, get hello world. And if I load this again, yeah, so you can see that's how you actually build locally. And this is actually using the BOS VM behind the scenes. So anything you do here is actually same thing you're doing anywhere you're building on BOS, either Jutsu or on Near or whichever IDE you're using. So now
so
next up,
you need to click loading components. It won't just dynamically do it every time you save. In terms of the gateway.
it won't just dynamically do it. Yeah, you need to click on, either you click on this or you load the page again. So it's not like it's live. There's no live preview at the moment. I believe that's being worked on, but at the moment there's no live preview for this. Yeah. So yeah, so now next up we'll just go ahead and deploy this. So I'll be deploying this to and just load my GitHub to a new repository, just to show you how the whole steps go. So I'll call this hooks demo, then create this. Yeah. But just before we deploy, in order to enable the deployment to near, like so that you can actually automatically deploy to near, so that means we need like actions, like a GitHub actions. So in order to do that, we need to add a workflow file. So in the root here, we'll just go ahead and add a new file. You can add a folder or a file, but I'll just add so in the GitHub folder, there's the workflows, then there's this one I'm gonna call the file. Cool. So now here, let me just go ahead and close this terminal. So now here we can paste these lines of code, this action, this lines of code that is going to trigger in the action. Right, cool. So as you can see now, okay, yeah. So here, the app name, you need to rename this to whatever you called your app. Whatever I call your app can be found here in your name of your repository. Yeah. So you need to rename that folder. Just make sure that that is like that. If not, it might not build. Yeah, and also we need to add these keys as well to the repository. So these keys, I'll show you a little bit how to generate them, because it's quite tricky to get the public keys if you don't know how. Yeah. So let me just go ahead and close this and open my terminal. So split terminal, split it to bash. Let me expand this. Cool. Yeah, so now the first thing is to git init this, git init, then git add, git commit, function, first commit. Cool. Okay, so now let me just copy all this. Just copy all this. So paste it. Cool. Deployed, load again. What's happening? Okay. Cool. So it's so if we check our actions now, we should have it going through, but this is going to fail because we haven't configured our keys yet, just as I mentioned. So in order to configure keys, you need a couple of keys. Let's just go over the YAML file. So we need this deploy account ID. So for deploy account ID and the signer account ID, we'll be using both the hash node what's it called? I mean, the hooks demo.near. Yeah, that's the account that we're using. Then in order for us to get the public key, because there's actually sometimes depending on the account you're using, it might be asking for some kind of TX value, some kind of bug like that. So I'll just show you how to do that in your terminal. So in your terminal, let me just clear this. You can trigger this called npx near uh, near CLI. Good. So now we can go to manage account. Then go to manage account. We can go to add keys. So if you go to add keys, you can now which account do you want to add these keys to? So this is hooks demo.near. Then to grant this full access, so it's going to have full access. Then now we can auto generate new key pair. Yeah, you can generate new key pair. Then you can just say print to terminal because I'm going to be copying it out of my terminal here. Yeah, so for mainnet. So
Oh,
now,
there's a few things I want you to explain right now. So the
okay.
signer account address is different than deploy account address because you can essentially have another account deploy into the widget namespace on the social.near contract, which is what saves the component. Just kind of want to specify why there's two differences. Additionally, in the CLI.rs, you already have like how how does it know that hooks.demo is in here? It's about a redirect or what?
How does it know that hooks.demo.near?
Is in your computer, or is it about to just redirect into my near wallet or something?
No, it's going to ask me here. For example, now if I want to, I need to sign in here. So I'm going to sign in with seed phrase. So that's how it's going to know that, okay, yeah, this is actually a valid new account. You get.
Okay, and let's
So
just
you
emphasize
either
which
redirect and sign in. Yeah. Go ahead.
let's just emphasize what you're doing. So on near, you can have multiple key pairs, public keys and private keys. This is a full
Yeah,
access key. That means it can delete other keys and it gives you full access to your account right here. So it's important to do diligence on like clearing your keys and kind of understanding like this is your main password. But you can have multiple of
exactly.
them.
Yeah, this is exactly this is exactly that. This is your like your main part. So basically what we are doing here is to just like give this account full access because ideally if your account does not have full access, there's actually a contract call on near social that is actually going to bug out when you are building your file, especially for new accounts. You get there's a contract call that is going to ask for a deposit that is not available. So we just need to give this account full access so that if this account now has full access, then you just copy the keys and you just use those keys. Yeah. Okay. So moving on. So I'm just going to sign in with seed first. So actually, no. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So this is actually a dummy account and all this will be switched later on. So you can go ahead and see my seed first. Yeah. So this you can just click enter for this. Yeah, because I'm not sure about that. So you can use the default. Okay, cool. So now with this now, so you have your public key and you also have your signature, which is actually your private key. Yeah. So moving on, I've actually copied this somewhere. So moving on back to the GitHub. So now in your settings now, we need to go ahead and enable this in the secrets and variables. Yeah, then actions. So we need to add those keys. So firstly, the ones that we're adding, which is actually public, is this BOS deploy account ID, which is hooks demo near, because now we're using the same account. Yeah, we're not, you can actually use one account as a signer and deploy it to another account, but we're using the same account. Yeah, so we can add another one as well, which is the BOS signer account ID. So this is going to be the signer. Yeah, so this is going to be hooks demo near as well. Cool. Then we also need one more, which is the public key. So now
Yeah,
public.
and just if you did a different signer, you would have to actually specify on the social.near contract that you grant permissions from hooks.demo.near for a different signer to post on that data tree.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the public key.
You include the word public key in there.
I included it. Oh,
Says
my bad, my bad. Thanks. Cool. So now this is where you actually save the private key. So just as I mentioned, we're going to be swapping this out immediately after this workshop. So cool. So now we have all this set up. If I head over to my actions, I believe it should have failed. Yeah. If we go ahead and deploy this again, and deploy this again and wait a couple of seconds. So let me just see if I can pull what is actually happening in the account while this is taking place.
and you're gonna need near on this account in order to deploy on mainnet.
Yeah,
Each component has a certain amount of kilobytes that translate to near. Jutsu has a good kind of visualization that's on the bottom right corner, so we can better kind of approximate how much to load.
yeah. So you can also track the deployment as well to see exactly what is taking place. So now it's actually deploying the widget. This shouldn't take that long because we don't have much to deploy. We just have a simple hello world, I guess. Yeah, excuse me. Oh, so now this is almost successful. Yep, so that's successful. So if I go ahead and check, let me just show you. So this is my account. So I should get the activity anytime now. Let me just load this again. Ah, cool. Yeah, so you guys can see the recent call to near social. Yeah, so this was what we just deployed and deployed automatically. So you don't need to trigger anything. You can see this is just the hello world that we deployed here. Yeah, so and you can see it was to near social and this was my account. So if you head over to like near socials, if you head over to near socials, then you put your account, which is hooks demo.near/widget/app. You get your hello world, which you have trying to deploy. So this is how to actually build locally and deploy your changes just by making commits on the near BOS space.
It's also important to note that there's an index dot like JSON dot C file, whatever you're naming or whatever your name of your file is, you can add a JSON dot C
Yeah,
file to actually have the widget metadata. So things like the name, the tags, the image on there won't be included here. There's a separate way to do that, but we kind of glanced over it for the sake of time.
yeah, exactly. Cool. Yeah, so moving forward to the second part of the workshop, which has to do with hooks. Yeah, so hooks has just been integrated into the BOS workspace, which is actually meant to make our life much more easier, to put it simply. So if you don't know what hooks are, so React hooks, so I can just go ahead and just show you a little bit about what hooks are. Let me just use the next 2 minutes to talk about hooks. So we have a couple of them. So normally hooks are either used to maintain, initialize, and also track state change in your application. Yeah, so the hooks that we actually integrated into the BOS VM now, it's the use state, the use effect, the use callback, and also the use memo hook. Now, these hooks are highly important and they are meant to optimize and make our applications that we are building on BOS more maintainable, and you get easily to work with other larger applications. Larger applications, sorry. Yeah, so just to touch on a couple of them. So yes, as you can see, the use callback hook, which just takes in like a function call and also a dependency. So this is just meant to track a state changes and also make sure that if your application is rendering again, you get it actually hinders that unless the dependency changes. A little bit like use effect, but use effect is not actually a function call. Use effect handles the entire application or the entire page, if I should say. Yeah. So I will just go over I'm going to be using the BOS workspace for this example. So firstly, I'm going to start with the use state hook. So initially, I'm going to like show you guys what use state looks like before integrating hooks. So initially, we used what was called init state. So I just pasted this. So I've handled the code logic and yeah, so I'll just be pasting and be explaining. So this use state hook now, we use state.init and state.update. So this was how we actually handled state logic initially. Now, just to point out as well, this app, let me just see, this app is not focused, this workshop is not focused on, UI, but just to talk about these hooks. So majorly functionality. So all these hooks, this function here now does is just like a toggle. It just toggle the background. So that's all it does. So if I click on this, it toggles it. If I click on this, it toggles it. So now you can do this now with use state. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing you should note that you don't handle imports here because it's actually imported in the VM. So you don't need to go up and start importing states from somewhere. No, you don't need all that. Just call it wherever it's needed. So here now, I can just call toggle and set toggle. You get, so I can just call it use state. Now you see automatically it picks it. So it knows what this is. And you can set this to false. Cool. So now I set this to false. Then you don't need this again. So here now, all what you need to do, instead of calling state.update in your toggle function, all you do is what is to call your set toggle. Then you just say it's the opposite of whatever toggle is. Like, just give me back the opposite of whatever toggle is. Then you don't need to be handling all this state.toggle, state.toggle, state. Like it's too much jibby jabber. So you just handle toggle. Just call toggle. Automatically picks that. You get automatically picks that. So now if you come over here and load again, and we click on this toggle, so you can see it works exactly as it would with state.init and state.update. So this is just like a minor example on the use state hook. So next up, I'll be demoing another one called the use the use callback, use effect. So I'm using, I think I queued my terminal. Let me just start it again. Yeah, I think I queued my terminal. Yeah, apologies. So we don't need dev. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So let me just go ahead and show you how it's going to work. Okay, cool. So all it does is it just takes a timer. It's just showing a timer, which is actually handled with state and use effect. Then we can also pause this timer. Again, it stops. Then we can totally stop the timer. Then we can also reset it as well. Then we can resume it. Then it continues. But here's the thing: you can also handle the logic in order to change the what's it called? To change the timeout. Like the set timeout, I think is set to 2000 milliseconds here. So you can update it to maybe 6000. Then it's going to like take forever. I can wait to maybe 1000. So I just handled that. So I'll just explain all what is going on here. So as you can see here, we're using the use state hook a couple of times to initialize count. We used it for the duration as well. And also we used it for the timer, like the timer ID, which is actually needed. Then we use the use callback hook. So this use callback hook is just to make sure that every time that count is being updated or anytime that count is changing, that means every time we're adding a count, it only affects that count function. It's not affecting the entire app. You understand? Because ideally, if you're using something like state.update, it's going to affect the entire app. Yeah, so then we have this clear timer function, which all it does is to clear the timer whenever we pause, and also the reset count as well to just set the count back to 0. So this is also another use state hook over here. Then we also have the toggle pause, which all it does is to set the timer ID and also call this increment count function again, and also handle the duration, whichever one we set in our, like there's the input field here, you have to set your duration for the timeout. So if you set it to 1000 milliseconds, that's going to be updated here. So if you look at where we are calling this toggle pause, we actually call it here on this button click. That's whenever we pause. Yeah, so basically this is all what this widget does. You can see use effect being used to the fullest here. You can see dependencies dependent on count, on increment counts, and if it's paused, and its duration and timer duration as well. So with this, you can also see the clear timers as well. So meaning you also have ability to clear that effect. So whenever you clear that effect, it's going to automatically start again. Yeah. So all this was unavailable before. There was no way to actually use effect like this on BOS, but now you're able to use effects to the fullest. Yeah. So I don't know, can you still hear me? Because it sounds kind of quiet.
Yeah, no, I'm listening.
All right, cool. Yeah. So next up, I'm going to like demo on the use memo function. I mean hook, sorry, use memo hook. So use memo hook now, it works closely like use callback, because the same thing is just to actually memorize a function or a field, or actually the entire app. You can actually memorize the entire app if you wanted to. So here now I have this function that is actually memorized. So this function,
What's that mean? What's memoizing?
okay, to memorize means that you want that particular application or that particular app to be dependent on something, meaning it won't change unless this thing change. So it actually is conditional. I mean, you set that condition to it, you understand? So it means that you actually memorize it. Yeah. So now I'll show you two instances. This is the first instance that this input field is actually memorized, and this is another instance that it's not. So let me just show you. Let me switch tabs. Let me load this again. So for this now, I'm going to need my terminal. So I'm going to need the logs. Cool. So initially, if we load it, yeah, so you can see this log now. This log happens should only trigger when we type something. You get, when we type something, that's the only time that I want that log to be shown. Okay, so now if I type this is a man, you get, so it's only triggered here. So use cases for this can be like in, for example, if you go to near social, for example, if you go to something like near social, wherever you see where we are typing in people's here, you can, if you notice, it's kind of slow. And why it's slow is because I don't even need to look at it. I know that this input field is not memorized, you get. So it's actually affecting the entire app whenever you type something. So if it was memorized, you get, it won't, where's my instant? So now, if you see now, to show you that it's actually memorized, if I click on this button, you see I'm toggling something else, I'm handling something else, and it's not actually affecting this. Why? Because this particular input field is memorized. So if I go ahead and comment this out, if I comment this out and I comment this in, so this is actually going to trigger the same thing, which is to convert the text to uppercase. But now we're about to check if it's actually going, since it's not using the use memo hook now, that means it's not memorizing anything. So it's like the whole entire application is being triggered every time we type in something. So if I load this page again, and if you see, if I'm typing, fine and good, it's still logging. But when I'm toggling, you see, I'm doing something else, but it's still calling that input field. I'm doing something else, but it's still calling that. So imagine you have a large application where there are a lot of buttons here and there, a lot of things to be triggered. And each time you call something, it's still calling that input field. So that function is not specific to itself, but it's specific to the entire app. And you don't want it to be specific to itself. So that's the use case of use memo. And that is how helpful it can be. You understand? So so that's that for this example. Yeah, so just to bring everything together, I believe there's one final example I have, yeah, which is just like a tax handler. It's a little bit complicated, but you get the picture. So basically all what this is doing is just like a to-do kind of app, but you can see use states here. I use different type of states here. There's a list, there's a string, there's an object, there's also a number. So that's just to show you that we can use multiple, or can initialize our state to anything possible here. Then we can see we use effect here just to set total count length, and also we used use callback to handle our function. That's, as you can see it here, to memorize our function every time that we are deleting a tax. You get, also when we are editing a tax, we make sure that we memorize our function as well, just to make sure that our app performance, you get, is actually optimized, because that's the goal of building. As you build, you need to make sure that your application is fast, it's actually scalable, and can be used anywhere, you understand? So also for a total count as well. And also you can see input fields using the use state hook. But here, this is set state, which is the set new tax, where you just set it to the input field. Then here we map to our entire tax. Then we also edit, we have ability to edit tax as well. So this is just using it to the fullest, you understand? Like using it to the fullest. In terms of demo, I'm not sure there's anything you want to use that you can't use these hooks for actually. So let's just go ahead and trigger this again. Okay, so now you see the tax tracker, so you can add a new tax. So I can say a new man, and we can add that. And you see we can also edit this tax, new man. Okay, then we can save changes. Again, we can delete, like, and if you see it's only being called, each button that we click is only being affected anytime we call that button. It's not affecting the entire app, meaning you can have other things in other places, but your app is optimized to call that function at the particular time you want it to be called, which is one of the benefits of hooks. Yeah, so basically that's all I have to demo. Yeah, so I don't know if there are any questions or any feedback.
Yeah, if you don't mind actually adding all the different examples in here and deploying it to this account so we can kind of have it as a reference. But something I wanted to go, if you can go back to the React documentation, like what hooks are on React that you would like to see, or that you're like used to being like a traditional front-end developer that's not on the social VM yet.
Okay, cool. So we have a couple of hooks that are not yet on the social VM yet because one important one is this, which is the use ref hook. This hook is actually important, especially when you're dealing with input field and you don't want to like bloat your app with a lot of use state here and there, initializing state. So you can just use this to track whichever input field you want or whichever field you want actually. So this is one hook that is actually important and is yet to make it to the social VM. Yeah. And we also have the I mean, for now, I'm not sure we'll be having the use context hook because use context has to do with state management, between that means you will have to do something like state management between widgets, which at the moment, I'm not sure that will be possible. Yeah, I'm not sure that will be possible for now because we are just dealing with one single widget at a time. Yeah, but hopefully we might be able to see that soon. The use layout effect is not necessarily important because mostly use effect is almost the same thing as use layout effect. Use layout effect is only important when you want to like handle some kind of weird background change and stuff like that that happens before the app loads. So that's when you use something like use layout effect. And the use reducer hook, this basically use state can also serve as this for now, unless you have a lot of state. Yeah, so that's when you have to use like a use reducer hook. And also for those people that like having their own custom hook, that's still not possible because unless your custom hook is being handled in such a way that you are just utilizing the hooks that are available. You're just utilizing the hooks that are available and you export your function into another widget, which can actually use your hook like that. You understand? So that's the only way you can have your own custom hook. But apart from that, I'm not sure there's any hook again that I've not touched that's like a uh, day-to-day hook for a developer that we haven't actually used yet. Yeah. So the major ones that we're expecting now is just the use ref hook. Yeah, this is like an important hook as well. Yeah.
So if use context gets figured out, this will prevent like kind of all the prop drilling from like parent to child, or like what's kind of the most annoying thing on BOS that one of these hooks would solve.
Yeah, okay. So one of the annoying thing on that this hook solve is well, I would say having to like, because just as I showed with the use effects, the use effect coming is actually important because you at times you want to monitor when a particular state has changed. You get so that was possible, but it was kind of a little bit complicated. You need a lot of functions here and there. But now just adding that particular state change as a dependency, you can be able to know when this change and either update a button or trigger an event and also monitor your state as well. You can monitor your state at different levels. So the use effects coming in for me is even much more important than the use state coming in. Although the use states, one good thing it does, it makes your app cleaner. You understand? Not too many state.this, state.this, state.this. You can just initialize it and yeah, all you're doing is calling set state. Nothing like state.update. Yeah, just calling set state. And the use memo, I showed how important that is as well in memorizing your function because at times you have just one single thing that you don't want to be slowed down or that you want to be optimized and not affect your entire application, but you can't do that. But now can be able to do that, especially when working with search fields, like you're searching for a user or you're handling search for widget or whatever search you're searching. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, if you don't mind kind of showing these examples and deploying it, that was awesome.
Okay.
Covering all the hooks. But yeah, we can do it off that. We have coming pretty close on time right now.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. So if you just go to what's it called now? Hooks demo, you'll be able to see all these examples that I'll be deploying now. Yeah, I'm deploying them now.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. I'll put all these actually in the description of the video. So yeah, thanks so much for coming on and yeah, have a nice day, everybody. Until next time.